Oh, it's a beautiful Sunday morning out here. Hayes and I are just on our way down to our spot down by the river. If Hayes had her way, this would be the everyday walk. But this hill, switchback hill I'm standing on, is the reason why I prefer this to be a once a week adventure. She likes this trip the most for the obvious reasons. It's one of the only places I have the confidence to give her this much off-leash time since her accident last spring. Christina and I have always been pretty pleased with the lifestyle choices that we've made for ourselves and our family. But we're seeing it in a new light. It's not lost on me how fortunate I am when the whole world's going back down into lockdown, stay at home, that I have this in my backyard. The mighty Peace River. As I believe I mentioned in a previous video, the now diverted mighty Peace River. And I'm pretty sure I pointed this out previously too. The diverted mighty Peace River looks precisely the same as the undiverted mighty Peace River that I've shown you from multiple locations repeatedly leading up to the diversion. So we've seen this river in all seasons now, and we've seen it in its undiverted, supposedly, state and its now diverted state. And we did also mention that, you know what, no matter what anybody wants to make a big deal about, this is the third time this river's been diverted, and there hasn't been any, you know, whatever the argument revolving around pristine rivers might be. That argument never did apply here from the time of the WAC Bennett Dam back in the 50s. It was easier to create meaningful, sensible, economically wise energy projects back then than it's become now. It's hard to find a project that's green enough for the greensters, so you know what, when hydroelectricity isn't green power, we're really saying we want to be cavemen. And there's far too many earthlings for us to become cavemen. We'll strip this planet in a month. Now this whole international health crisis certainly has Christina and I, you know, reviewing decisions and reviewing things that were on our possibilities list. And one thing we're both very cognizant of is with a mix of good fortune, primarily as Christina calls it, winning the birth lottery, and good decisions, we couldn't really be better positioned for the world today than we are. How often we flirted with things like expat work, how uncomfortable I would be in that situation right now. We took what seemed to be a safer path, I guess, and it paid off. Even this video outlet that I've created for myself, you know, this isn't something I've ever done before in my life, but with all things being what they are, I have time on my hands and I needed to fill it. This is not a time for finding projects to engage in. Although that will come again. But I'm able to just create this own little project of my own. Doing these morning rant walks. Working with my dog. Very fortunate. Very fortunate. By any standards. And yeah, in most of North America, for the huge percentage of North Americans, finding something like this, to do something similar to this as an outlet, is probably possible for a lot of us. But that's not going to be true everywhere in the world. And the degree of lockdown is also administered differently, mostly depending on population density. Seems to be the actual fact that governs what's necessary. For me, undertaking this YouTube adventure has been enlightening in a lot of ways. It's hard to really put my finger on, but I'm learning things about me, and I'm also learning to perceive things differently, maybe more broadly. Like I said, it's a bit hard to put my finger on. This certainly is a lot different than 14, 16-hour days doing project work, though. I'm pretty sure my stress levels are lower than they've ever been. Well, here we are, back at our favorite spot. It really is worth the walk, especially on a morning like this. You know, I feel guilty when I have to talk myself into bringing her down here. It's about a 13-ish K round trip. But it is, as you've seen, mostly straight up and down. But this is a good place to find peace. So we try to make a pilgrimage once a week. Not sure where Hayes is right now. Can only strongly encourage people to try to find ways to cope. You know, being self-directed in healthcare and taking care of yourself, it's not all physical anymore. It's not all about the 5 kilometers a day at the end of a leash. It's about the mental health component. And as I've been recognizing on this walk, we do understand how blessed we are to have this exact avenue open to us. But it's mostly about making the most of what you can pull together. And you don't know until you get out there what kind of things you'll find. Like, you know, I've been a walker for all my life, basically. Didn't take a plague to get me onto the leash. But stumbling upon the wooden nickels, the inspiration for what I now refer to as the wooden nickel trail that appears, you know, most days in my morning rants. Basically, except for the days when we come here. occasional drive to Dawson Creek. So not everybody has this kind of an outlet, but everybody's going to have to find something. You can't keep being locked in your house for a month at a time and maintain a healthy equilibrium unless you take some action. I don't think we realize how much of our day-to-day lives is paced by what we do. And I think I'm probably having a double realization because as those who have been following me know, I moved into pension in January. So I think I would have been noticing a radical change in the ebb and flow of my days, whether the plague came or not. Maybe it's a convenience that I'm able to deal with both of these changes at the same time, given that they have a lot of similarities. You know, not trying to scare anybody off retirement or anything, but you know, a lot of the change that COVID and the lockdown has brought is really quite similar to the change that one goes through if you try to slip into a pension life. Maybe not everybody. But I went from a pace of 6 days a week, 10 to 14 hours a day, that I've been maintaining for quite a lot of years, having a lot more time to focus on, I guess things I never really noticed before when, I was more concerned about whether we could get the refractory back in that furnace in time for startup. So now I won't have to go through it twice. But I do think, honestly, that if you're still just hoping day by day that everything's going to go back to normal, I really don't feel that's going to be healthy in the long run. Maybe things will go back to what we call normal, what people want to call normal. Maybe they will. But we don't know when. And mental health is a fragile thing. I guess physical health is too. It's a lot harder to recover your physical health if you let it go. And likewise, it'll be a lot harder to recover your mental health if you let that go. So I guess unlike everybody else that does Wellness Wednesday, I guess this was Pete's Wellness Sunday. So just saying, doesn't have to be a wood nickel trail, doesn't have to be a trip to the river, but something has to replace the missing driving forces if you want to maintain your equilibrium. Stay safe. Have a nice day. Thanks for listening.